following program was produced by a community producer. The content, views, and opinions expressed are the sole responsibility of the community producer and do not reflect Malden Access Television, the City of Malden, or your cable provider. MATV welcomes your comments. Call us at 781-321-6400 or email us at access@matv.org.
Good evening and welcome to the Malden Zone. My name is Ron Cochran. I am the Director of Online Services and Communication Technology with the Mayor's Office. And we have been it's been a pleasure for the Mayor's Office to host the Malden Zone once a week, and here we are again. Today is a great day for us. We're going to be talking about how things go in the City of Malden with respect to social media and online services. But before I'd like to start off by thanking Fran Matuccio for asking us in the Mayor's Office to host, and myself, and also MATV. As always, MATV does a fantastic job broadcasting things to the city and getting important information out to the city. Now, if you look at the intro before you saw my face, you would see that it says no calls, but doing something a little bit tricky tonight. This is not a call-in show. However, this could be a tweet-in show or a Facebook-in show. So if you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you'll be able to put in messages to us, and we'll periodically monitor them. I'll try and do this as I'm hosting as well. So if you see me turn off to my side, then I'll be monitoring this. So if you have any questions that you'd like to get to that are pertinent to what we're talking about tonight, you can do so on Twitter. And our address for Twitter is twitter.com/thecityofmalden and twitter.com/thecityofmalden. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/cityofmalden. Tonight, again, we're going to be talking about social media and how it relates to city government. As you know, Mayor Christensen is a new mayor as of January of this year, and one of his early priorities, and actually something that he talked a lot about on the campaign trail, was that he wanted to incorporate social media and web technology much more than it had been leveraged in the past. And that was very important to him as one of his key pillars of his administration. And I was honored to be asked to fulfill that role and bring that to the City of Malden. And one of the things we did when we first started out was we had to really start from scratch. We didn't have a Facebook account. We didn't have a Twitter account. We did have a website, which was great, and it was offering fresh information, but we kind of lacked that immediate nature of what social media brings to the world. But, you know, more importantly, we'll talk about Malden, what it brings to Malden. And Mayor Gary Christensen, made it a priority and also kind of let me run with it and design the strategy for the city, but also put in all of his suggestions, and what we ended up with was a social media strategy. Now, one of the things I'd like to talk about is that, you know, social media is a good way of sort of categorizing this whole thing: the Facebook, the Twitter, the Pinterest, you know, just Flickr, anything you can think of that comes to mind when you say social media. I know it when I see it. But see, we here in the City of Malden, in Mayor Christensen's office, we look at social media as much more than that. We look at it as our website and our email marketing and our Twitter feed, our Facebook feed, and our Flickr account, and really anything we can get our hands on. And actually, if you notice down the road, we'll start to phase in more things as we see fit and as our residents communicate to us and say, hey, you know what? This new thing called Pinterest, where you pin images up on the wall and show interest, well, hey, we'd like to see the city of Malden do that. So that's something that we're always listening. We always have our ear to the ground, and actually representative of that is tonight we have our ear to the computer, well, our eyes to the computer. So just a couple of things initially. I wanted to tell you just sort of some big accomplishments that we had up front. One of the things we did early on was we decided to do a new type of promotional event to try and generate some interest in the city of Malden with respect to business. Now, as you may or may not know, we do have a business development officer who sits in the city of Malden, and his name is Kevin Duffy, and he's really dedicated to bringing in business in Malden and really making them get off to a banging start. Now, one of the things we decided to do was run something called a cash mob. Now, what a cash mob is it's a concept of similar to a flash mob where a lot of people coordinate together, and in the case of a flash mob, they all get together and do something crazy like dance or whatever. But in the sense of a cash mob, it is we kind of got everybody together to go and execute on the buy local concept of business. And that is basically saying, look, take $10, okay, and go to this one particular store and make a purchase. And it happened to be the Cannoli Guy Cafe, which was is over on Main Street in Malden Square. We coordinated the effort through the mayor's office. We got all sorts of attention. We had the Boston Globe. We had TV stations. I personally was interviewed on 89.7, which is the public radio station of public radio arm of WGBH. And the great thing is, a local business really won out that day. I think he reported making about 3 weeks business in 1 or 2 days. But the real important thing is that we showcased Malden. And I feel like Malden is this burgeoning community that has all the fun things that the popular cities that people talk about, the Somervilles, the Cambridges, and the Bostons. But we are on the verge of being recognized for that, and I think rightly so. And one of my chief goals in that is basically to say, hey, look, we do this cool stuff too in Malden, okay? We're hip, we're cool too, so let's go ahead and execute on this and show you that Malden is a great place, to live and to be, but also that we have all this, social media and this technology that's supporting our business. And you know what? It really worked out, and people responded in kind. And, it's been successful ever since. Before we get to our first guest, what I do want to talk about is just some numbers. We have 4 different social media accounts that we promote right now, and there was a 5th one that I'll talk about in a minute. One is Facebook. We have over 1,100 Facebook fans, okay? That is in a 6-month span, okay? If I do say so myself, that's a pretty tough accomplishment to do. It was a lot of hard work through members of the staff, but also the community spreading the word. Twitter, we have over 800 Twitter followers. Flickr, we have, which is an image hosting social media site, we have over, let's just say we have hundreds of photos, probably approaching 1,000, and we have over 60,000 photo views. And then lastly, YouTube. We have about 10 to 15 videos produced and roughly about 4,000 to 5,000 video views. So it's very clear to me that Malden is tech savvy. We're getting the traffic that I actually, really, I had no expectations. I kind of hoped that we were this way, but basically, we are on a solid ground when it comes to social media. So, without further ado, I'd like to go to our first guest. And before doing so, I'd like to bring up just a quick video here, and then we'll talk about the video after it shows. Okay, we're back. I don't know if we had some technical difficulties, but that's okay. The essence of what that video was, we here in the city of Malden are fortunate that we're cutting edge. And joining me today is Detective Peter Mitchell from the Malden Police Department. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
And I might say a fellow Malden High School graduate, class of 1992.
That's
and
right.
yeah, we're very proud to wear the blue and gold back then. And Peter is a detective with the Malden Police Department, and also is in charge of the website,
Yes.
as well as the Twitter and Facebook and all of your social media efforts. So we had you on the show tonight. We recently saw a video. Just to set that up a little bit, it was a YouTube channel that the Malden Police created, and essentially they decided. And actually, you know what? I'm going to let Peter. I'm going to let you talk about this. Tell us about how you came up with the idea to put unsolved crime videos on YouTube. If you could just explain that a little bit, go through it.
Sure. We've had videos that have been in evidence in the archives. If there wasn't any particular interest in it, if the person that was in there, we didn't have anything to go by, they just kind of sat in evidence. If someone wanted to see it, we have to pull it out and queue it up and show it to them. And we decided to put them on the YouTube. We looked online, and other departments have done it. They've had some success with it, and we says, you know what, this is something that we could do. We can link it directly to our website. There's a little icon on there for YouTube, and it goes right there, and all you have to do is type in Malden Police, and you'll be able to see everything we have to the public.
And we saw, what we just saw there was a video of somebody that was a suspected somebody stealing somebody's purse. And, actually, if you want to queue up, we have another video which is along the same line, and it's basically somebody, it's a break-in from actually, no, what we did see was a break-in from a business, and then what we can also show is a local business had a purse, was it a purse stolen or a missing purse? The point is the police have come up with something truly innovative and bold, and they're basically using downtime essentially to let people, to get more eyes on it. Now look, we all grew up watching the show America's Most Wanted, right?
Exactly.
Huge success, many criminals caught. So clearly there is some kind of precedent that says you guys, or the video solves crimes when it gets shown to the public. So really, hats off to you guys for coming up with that as a solution. Because I say idle time, people are looking at that. Hey, what the heck? Bring up a YouTube video if you recognize somebody, right? Call the Malden Police Department. Now, have you had some inquiries and calls related to the videos?
We have. We've had hundreds of hits on the videos. We've had some good, positive feedback on them. I mean, it's essentially what you have is you have the ability to just what you said, to look at these videos any time of day. The best source of information from us is word of mouth, and people can take that information and actually link that YouTube link onto their Facebook.
embed it, right?
Embed it onto their Facebook.
Okay, right.
Put it onto their other social media websites and say, hey, look, do you know this person?
Right.
Look what's going on
so
here.
So viral in nature.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
As opposed to word of mouth, where it's slow and it gets, the mission gets out there, but sometimes it gets lost in translation. You may get that one link that doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, so we're seeing on right now the video from the local business with the purse missing.
This is the Stop and Shop on Charles Street. A woman left her purse in a carriage with all her information, and this gentleman actually found it. He did not return it, and
still pending.
Still pending.
Yeah. But the great thing is, I mean, how many times I know, because I did some research on this. That particular video has had over 500 views. There's a few others from the high school that have had over 600 views. Although sometimes I think maybe students are watching it more for the entertaining value than actually trying to help you guys solve crimes. But certainly a very effective tool, in my opinion. So what brought you into being the person who's in charge of the Twitter and the site and the Malden PD? By the way, the website. I'm sorry I didn't leave it on our scrolling, but to get to the Malden Police site, it's www.maldenpd.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that has links to all this as well as the Malden site, which is www.cityofmalden.org.
Correct.
So what got you into web technology? What made you interested in taking this arm over from at the police department?
I went into the computer field. I became an A+, N+ technician. I built computers, networked them, fixed them, repaired them, and what happened is when I got on the job, we've been trying to parallel the law enforcement aspect and the computer side of it, work computer forensics. We partnered with some of the organizations, the partners of NEMLAC, the Northeast Municipal Law Enforcement Council. They have a computer crime lab in Medford. I did a 6-month assignment over there.
Excellent.
With their organization, learned the forensic side, the investigatory side. A lot of crimes are facilitated on computers. The computers themselves are usually full of evidence. Threats are committed on Facebook. Violations of restraining orders are committed on Facebook. Emails. All these different things that we said. There are reasons for us to have the knowledge and the technical savvy to take this information and say, yes, we understand what it is. We know that the public out there has access to these things. Let's utilize it.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds to me like this isn't. You just described a pretty extensive training regimen. This isn't like, hey, I'm on Facebook. I can manage the police website.
Right.
This is training.
Right.
You have to be trained. You have to have a trained eye, really, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Some of the things we talked about actually, before the show started, we're talking about possibility of monitoring different elements of Facebook and Twitter for potential crime activity or anticipated crime activity.
Absolutely.
A kid wants to have a party that's going to do the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
He's probably going to blast that all over Twitter, right?
Absolutely.
And so all you have to do, right, you bring up a screen and say, okay, you guys will be there at 11, we'll be there at 12, right?
There are people out there that break into homes and take pictures of themselves while they're doing it and post it on Facebook. Items that they've stolen that they're looking to sell, they'll put on eBay. They'll go on Twitter and talk about their endeavors for the day. Gang activity is on these social media websites. The crimes themselves are sometimes facilitated using the social media websites. And actually, we have the ability to track them because once you put them on there, we can find out who you are. And that it's a huge tool for us to go on these sites, not only for a investigatory portion, but also as a positive way of showing the public that we understand what goes on out there. And we want to work with you. These are the tools that we have to do these things, and we're all on the same page.
Great. Now let me ask you, before we close out, and it's been a pleasure, by the way. It's good to see you as always. But
mine.
Before we close out, tell us how folks that see a video that want to report this activity, what should they do if they see anything suspicious online? What should they do?
Sure. The easiest thing to do is when you look at the videos that we have posted on there, there's very descriptive information as to what exactly you need to do. The detective line is on there, 781-397-7181, and the IC number, or what's called the incident number. You call with the information you have, you give the detective that answers the phone that incident number. We can very quickly establish who is assigned to it and give you that person so that the information isn't lost and it's relayed to the exact person that needs it, and we're able to follow up with the leads from there.
Excellent. Very thorough. Thank you very much, Peter. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Malden Zone. And again, my name is Ron Cochran. I am the Director of Online Services and Communication Technology with the City of Malden and Mayor Gary Christensen's office. I am joined by none other than Paul Hammersley. Welcome.
Thank you.
Online Services and Communication Specialist for the City of Malden, and happens to be a co-worker of mine, and I am extremely proud to say is the producer of, or producer, director, filmer, editor of that video that you just saw, which is amazing.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you, I can barely get through that video, as I know you can't either, with a tear in your eye.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff. Tell us a little bit about that video.
Well, you know, that video was really special, Ron. It was, I wanted to do something very special for the veterans and people who died for the country. And, you know, I saw the parade going on, and I decided just to put it together. And I did it fairly quickly to turn it up on the YouTube so the residents could see it. And I don't know what else to say. It was just it was a special moment for the city.
It must have just come together on its own, right?
It came together
no effort
on
in
its
that
own.
kind of thing.
There was a lot of effort, actually, but it came together right.
Well, how
on its
about
own.
effort of thought? You know,
Effort of thought,
A lot
yeah.
of
Yeah.
hours behind the computer.
Yeah.
A lot goes into something like that. Tell us, how long does something like that take to produce?
They're all different, Ron.
Yeah.
Everything is different. It's hours. You could work all week on something like that. You could get one in 3 days. It all depends the length of it and the quality of the work. And
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the reason why we started with this one is because I think it really symbolizes what we're trying to accomplish here in the social media world. We're really trying to bring the community together. We really try and hit on all of our aspects of the community, but you know, supporting our troops, it just seems to be something that everybody seems to rally around.
it's the best.
It's a
Yeah,
universal
it's,
acceptance
Absolutely.
of an ideal.
It's really important. You know, so I don't want people to forget that they're over there and they're fighting for us to do what we do here. And
Absolutely.
that video was for them, and like I said, it was for the people who died in the country, for the country, and that's it. I don't have much else to say about that video.
Well,
it spoke for itself.
Yeah, it's great. And you know, people can see that now if they actually, well, let's watch the show first, okay? And then after the show is done, you can go to YouTube, which our YouTube channel is youtube.com/City of Malden, and it's also linkable on our homepage as well. Now, I actually happened to be there at the cemetery there with my children, and I got a chance with my camera device to film the young men and women of the Malden High School band playing taps.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, that was really powerful. And I don't know how I kept my hands still, because that was something that was really, you know, I was kind of vibrating. It's just so powerful, the thing.
That's amazing.
And what was great is that, you know what? People are busy these days. Not everybody can make a parade.
No.
Not everybody can make every event that's, well, aside from our boss, Mayor Gary Christensen, he's the only one that actually makes every event.
correct.
But, you know, we like to bring you these events, and actually getting back to what I was talking about, filming that, taps, I was immediately able to post this to our YouTube account. And folks, at least this is what I hope anyway, is if folks that couldn't make it down to the parade, whether it be for medical reasons or timing, or they couldn't do it, you know, they were there with us.
That's
In
correct.
spirit, you know?
That's exactly why we do that stuff, Ron. You know,
Yeah.
for the people who can't get there, and that's what I do. I capture the moment in the city. I put everything together. It's all for the residents of the city.
Right.
You know, if you can't get there, there's a way that we'll get it to you.
Yeah.
You know, via the web. You can lead me into
Yeah,
the next question,
and I'll
Ron.
tell you, basically what we're looking at is, listen, you're everywhere, okay? This man, you see him on camera, okay? But you've seen him in photos. You see him everywhere. Why? Because every day I'm in work, and I can't even swallow the amount of things that you're doing. You're around the city. You're everywhere. Tell me about your role in the mayor's office. How do you organize it all? What do you do to keep up with it all?
You know, first off, I'm very proud to be part of the Christensen administration. I work with the best team in the city. It's an honor to be part of what we're doing, and I work really hard at what I do, but it's because I love what I do. And I think when I start thinking about if I'm working for the hourly portion of it, I think then it's not worth it. I don't think of the hours. I think of the effort and what it takes to make this city and get this city to the next level.
Yeah.
I've been here my whole life, and there's an awful lot going on in the city of Malden, and I'm just trying to bring it to everybody.
Yeah, it is an experience, being, an employee of the mayor's office. You do realize and you see all these things because the information flows back and forth through the
correct.
office, as you know. But as a resident, you could be totally plugged in and still miss, a good amount of stuff.
That's right.
And I think we try and make it a point to bring you that. And as another instance, we were having some issues with trash collection and things like that, where some people were complaining about the way bins were and sorting and different things like that. So tell me, what did we do to address that? Tell me what you did.
We did an informational video on how to properly recycle, Ron. We went out with Councilor Anderson, Bobby Knox, Ronnie Zanazzo from the DPW.
From the DPW, sure.
And we put something together on just how to properly recycle, and it's called Talking Trash on YouTube.
Clever.
It's got over 500 hits on it.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't actually know what the proper thing is to put in the bin. There's paper, plastic. There is commingled. There's a whole array that you need to know.
So you right there in the video, you can.
It's
you can
right
see
in the
all this,
video.
yeah.
It explains to you.
It's great, and
Yeah.
it's fun too, and that's kind of the
Absolutely.
thing. The overtone of this whole thing is we like to have fun with this stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think Paul does a fantastic job bringing that and bringing the message. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask a quick question. You follow the mayor around on the weekend.
I do.
Tell me what that is like, because there's a theory, that you ever see the movie with, I forget who was in it, but it's called Multiplicity, where there's multiple copies. I think people think that Gary has multiple copies. Does he?
No, he's one guy, and he's challenging to follow on the weekends. And again, I love what I do, and it's a lot of fun. That man hits every event possible, and again, I don't want anyone in the city to miss anything. So
And it's great. You're out, and people don't know this, but tweeting from the mayor's office, I do it. Paul does it as well. When it's
That's
the
right.
weekends, that's Paul's voice
that's
coming
right.
through.
That's right.
And you know what? We don't close the doors
No.
of City Hall at 12, do we?
7 days, 24 hours
Yeah.
a day.
It's a new day, isn't it?
It's a great day. I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Paul Hammersley is the online services and communication specialist with Mayor Christensen's
That's right.
office.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next we'll be going to our next guest, which we'll see a little video here. A little picture, actually. Okay, we're back. What we just saw there was a snapshot image of something called Cover It Live, which is an online forum. Folks that maybe are not familiar with it, Boston.com and some of the other larger news sites have what they call a mailbag segment where they might ask, ask the handyman your question, or ask the doctor, medical question. Well, we here in Mayor Christensen's administration decided to bring that level of communication to our residents. And with us today is Chris Caesar, editor of the Malden Patch. Welcome to the Malden Zone.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. And I'll tell you, this relationship we've had with the Malden Patch and doing the online forums has been, I think, a boon really for both organizations. And it's just been great. Tell me about the online forums from your perspective. What do your readers and viewers say about them, and how, what are they saying?
Well, the traffic's been going up every month, which I think is really telling.
Excellent.
It's kind of almost doubled every month. So there seems to be a real interest for that kind of interactive back and forth through the internet and social media, I think.
Yeah, and what we did is actually the first of the online forums was with candidate for mayor, Gary Christensen.
This is true.
And one of his promises as a candidate was that he would continue this process. And in the mayor's office, budgets are tight, and we try and cut every penny that we can. And in particular, this Cover It Live software is not a cheap piece of software. So one of the things that was a sort of a great marriage with this whole thing was that the Malden Patch was able to provide this software, and Chris as the moderator. So I think it was great. You've got the viewers, we've got the software, and a means of communicating with our end users, and also, you've got a thriving community out there in the online world. We took advantage of that to get our message out there. You're with the Malden Patch. I classify Malden Patch as a hyperlocal site.
Yeah,
Is that fair to say?
Oh, definitely fair to say.
Tell me about what that word means to you and what it means to your community.
Well, I think it's a new trend in journalism. As the internet's become more prevalent and kind of print papers decline, you see, I think it kind of started out on the West Coast first, where journalists were maybe getting laid off and starting their own blogs, and were just able to kind of do it without a lot of overhead.
Right.
This is probably back in maybe the last decade, maybe mid-range or so, and it just really caught on, and people saw that there was a real audience for this kind of stuff, and I think we've tapped into it in Malden. I think Malden's been one of the more successful patches.
To my knowledge, I don't know of neighboring cities that are doing this. I mean, you probably know better. You're plugged in with some of your area. Do you know of other cities that are doing it that you're plugged into, or
like live chats and stuff like that?
Live online forum.
Yeah, we all try to use that tool, I guess.
Yeah.
I think we were one of the first ones to use it, but I mean, it has really obvious pull, I think.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, credit to Mayor Christensen in this one, because it's one thing to get up there and use the technology and do it, but and I'm in these rooms when these live forums are going on. When you're asked a question on the spot, it is tough, to come up and produce an answer, because there's two things here. One is you don't have much time to answer it, because it becomes really obvious that you're taking your time if it takes anything longer than like 2 minutes.
Right.
But the second thing is that's print, and it's there. And if you say something, that you wanted to take back, it's not like we give a call to Chris Caesar and say, hey, can you pull that one back? This man has journalistic integrity, and he uses it. So, I think it's cutting edge, and I don't know if people fully swallow that that's what's going on. Maybe as people realize how raw and candid that environment is, maybe we'll get more readership. Tell me about the concept of what a troll is, and some people and the way they make some crazy comments, stuff like that. There's got to be a balance, right, between free speech and just utter,
just trolling.
So tell me about that concept.
Well, trolling, for people who don't know, I guess, is when someone makes a comment on a message board that doesn't really contribute to the discussion, but just kind of maybe inflames everyone and upsets people. And we try not to tolerate it on Patch. I mean, I think I have a kind of liberal editorial philosophy about comments. But yeah, if people aren't contributing to the discussion, it's not good for anybody. Yeah,
it's tough too, because there are things that could be said in the Twitter sphere that, although it may be wildly inappropriate, as long as it doesn't violate any laws, it's not like that I'm going to be just going and deleting these things myself. These things are protected by the U.S. Constitution, so
right.
There is no editing of this stuff. So again, I think the people that are involved in it realize that I think anyway, that candidness of the medium, and I think once more people come on, I think it's going to be tough for you to manage all of the comments that are coming your way. So
yeah,
it's been okay so far to manage it.
There have been a few problems here or there, but I mean, it's part of the fun. I mean, I really like interacting with readers. It's probably one of the better features of having an online outlet as opposed to a print one.
So you're getting some good feedback then from your readers, and
we're getting feedback.
Yeah,
we get good feedback and sometimes critical feedback. But.
Right. Okay, well, actually, it's probably a good time that we should say when our next online forum is.
Sure.
And since we're live, it's great to say we're only 2 days away from
our.
So we are on Fridays at July 22nd, and it starts at 11 o'clock a.m.
That's right.
And we publicize that it ends at 1, but we've never ended at. It's kind of like when you go see a band and they're going on till 1:30, and you say, all right, come on, get on with the encore. Well, we kind of do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We usually run about a half hour late. And we'll plan to do that. And
cool.
this week's topic is a very interesting and hot topic, and that is the budget.
Sure.
We've brought in Superintendent Dave DeRusi, or actually he's unavailable. He's going to be sending a representative, as well as Chuck Ranigan, who's the city controller.
Right.
So they're going to be on hand to answer technical budget-related questions, but of course, Mayor Christensen as well. So we hope that online forum viewers, well, first of all, if you haven't joined us, we hope you do join us on this Friday at 11 a.m. But for people that do join us, please try and keep it to budget-related questions if you can. We try and keep these things focused. 1 month we'll have it as a public safety one. We'll have a police officer handy.
Sure.
We try and tailor the message. You got to mix it up, right?
Right, absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us, Chris Caesar, the
pleasure.
Malden Patch, and we'll see you on Friday.
I guess we will.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And who's coming really to us really on a whim. He's coming really quickly over from City Hall. Really important meeting over there tonight, and I really appreciate that he's here with us tonight. So once again, we are joined by Councilor David D'Arcangelo.
Welcome.
Pleasure
Ron,
to have you.
I'm welcoming you to Studio B here at Malden Access.
Yeah, you're
This
the
is
veteran
usually
here. I'm the rookie.
around town. This is where Francis and I usually tape the show. But
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, as you mentioned, I am coming from the public meeting was tonight on the budget. So anybody who was interested in a budget matter, anything contained within the proposed city budget, could come down, and the Finance Committee had a chance to hear from them. There was a lot of people there about the teen center issue. That seems to be a big issue. A couple of other things as well. We did some deliberations, and really we've been meeting, seems like every night.
Yeah.
Hasn't been every night, but it seems that we've met many nights, and up until the budget, which next Tuesday, hopefully we'll be able to vote the budget. So I know we have meetings on Monday and Tuesday, so.
Well, it's a good segue, because speaking of the budget, and we're here to talk about social media, and one of the things that that Mayor Christensen made it a priority was that he was going to change the presentation of the budget and how it was presented to you as the legislative branch of the city. Now, we did something really kind of turned things on end, and we put it entirely on the website.
Entirely online.
So those folks that are used to the big, huge 3-ring binders of 300 pages,
This kind of
plopped
stuff
on
is
your desk,
crosswalk kind of
thing
stuff.
of the past maybe, we presented it online. And actually, for those at home that want to take a look at it, if you go to www.cityofmalden.org, and on the right-hand side, there's something for a link to the fiscal year budget. I want to get your perspective on what that was like. Now, you are a new counselor, so it's your first budget seeing it that way, but you've been around City Hall a long time. You know how budgets come down. What was it like seeing it from the web perspective?
Well, it was interesting. I think initially it was just such a breath of fresh air, and we all said, wow, that's great. The one thing was we had hoped that it would also be in the print format and not just exclusively online, because people have been conditioned over so long to get it in that other format. So, a little bump in the road there. The mayor's office ended up providing it, which was good to their credit. So, I think the mayor's push for all of the online applications that you're doing, that Paul's doing, that a number of the other people in city government are doing is a positive thing. It definitely helps with communication and transparency, and it really gives people an opportunity to take part in their government in a way they never have before. So those are all good things, and I definitely support that aspect of what Mayor Christensen's doing. I think it's a good thing, positive
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, you had to know that there were going to be some bumps and grinds and that, switching so drastically. But the important thing is the information's there, and you're on top of it. Now, look, we could talk about the budget for another hour, but we're not going to.
Yeah, no, let's.
I have you here to talk about social media.
Okay.
You've got some pretty strong ties to social media and PR. Can you give me a background on how you tie into this?
Sure, I'm a city councilor at large, but in addition to that, I also have my own public relations business, Archangel Communications, and I've been advising clients now since 1996, really, on some of the earlier web technologies, like posting on bulletin boards at the time, and
Sure.
Newsnet and Usenet and things like that at the time. So, but that started slowly. But then really in 2006, when I, in earnest, really ramped up my business and started taking clients on retainer and things like that, that's really when it started developing LinkedIn profiles for companies and for professionals, and developing websites for professionals. All of the things that came on with it. I mean, really, I think a month in regular time is like a year in social media time,
Yeah.
because things, widgets and applets and all kinds of things come online so quickly. It's hard to
Right.
keep up.
It's a great point, and it's something that I've experienced, which is, you come here, you're doing something new, and, you're saying, oh, this is great, everybody's, biting off more than they can chew, they love it. But then you realize that, or at least I've realized, is that, I kind of started a firestorm
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say our administration started a firestorm. And you know what? The hunger for that immediacy, that give that information to me now, it's evident. The people of Malden want this information right away.
Absolutely.
So it can be tough to keep up with it sometimes. Tell me, you're tied into some of the Massachusetts organizations in terms of media, GovLoop, things like that, Mass Municipal Association. I know that you're out there researching this stuff. Tell me where you think social media and government is going. Where do you see the trends?
I really view it as a force multiplier. To borrow a term from one of our IT people, Anthony Rodriguez, in the fact that you can do so much more with just a click of a mouse,
Right.
with just a post, with just a couple of things. That you're taking a lot of the postage out of the billing. You're able to find information that used to take a week in budget deliberations. Now it's called up on your iPad within minutes. The city controller literally sits in a lot of these budget meetings, and he's able to give us data almost instantaneously. And what's the value of that? How can you even quantify that?
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, really we're ahead of the curve. So kudos to Mayor Christensen again for embracing this as much as he has. I mean, I think really, other than maybe Somerville and Cambridge, which are two very progressive communities with very large populations of higher education, things like that, other than them, I don't see anybody doing what Malden is doing right now. We've been very aggressive. You've been very aggressive. Anthony Rodriguez has been very aggressive. Paul. Everybody's really working together and pulling together to make these online technologies become, because it's one thing to have them and it's another thing to use them, and we're really using them, and the people in Malden are really using them. And one of the things I think is interesting, an analogy that I teach in my social media class. I'm an adjunct professor at Suffolk University.
That's right. We don't call you counselor. We should call you Professor, Dr.
Adjunct
Angelo here.
professor.
Okay,
So one of the things I like to lecture in my class at teaching, I taught the first ever social media class at Suffolk, was I liken it to, when we had 8 tracks, and when we had record players, and when we had, even before that, other technologies. In their day, those were technologies. Now, just because other technologies developed didn't mean those technologies completely went away. They might have diminished and other technologies have come up, but they're not extinct by any means. You can still go out and buy a record player, you can still go out and buy records, you can still go out and buy cassettes and CDs and things like that. So as the new technology comes online, I think what it does is it sets up these channels for people, for users to really participate in. So I really view Twitter and Facebook and whatever other social media you want to talk about, social networking you want to talk about, as just various channels to be able to get these users involved. Some people that use Facebook don't use Twitter. Some people that use Foursquare don't use Facebook. And now the tendency is, if they're using these modern social media platforms, they tend to cross over and use some others, but it's not necessarily the case. So I think what you're doing and the strategy you're doing with Facebook and Twitter and Flickr, and not going so overly aggressive, but having a presence in at least the major ones, I think that's very effective.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think one of the key elements to it is we have at least procured accounts on many different social media backgrounds, your Pinterest and whatnot, but I haven't actively publish those forwards, because my rule is personally, and I bring this to the administration and to the office, is that if we don't have the resource to populate it,
Sure.
I'm not going to bore you with going out there looking for an update that happens once every month.
Yeah.
I throw, something up there on Pinterest for, whatever, a picture of a salad recipe
Right.
that I made. No. We are addressing these social mediums, and we're putting a lot of effort towards them. So, for instance, when we're in the middle, like, just to give you an idea, the anatomy of composing a message, we like to go into the different places. So if it's a Facebook and Twitter message, we'll go into Facebook and we'll talk in the Facebook terms. We'll address
Sure.
people on their terms
Sure.
and how they like to receive
Yeah.
information there.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go into Twitter, where it's much more acceptable to abbreviate your message,
Sure.
to be short, misspellings, things like that. You get a little more forgiveness in the Twitter sphere. So yeah, it's appreciated that it's recognized, from the legislative arm of our city that that you're liking how this goes.
Well, it's a good technique and a good policy, really, because what you're doing is you're engaging that community how that community wants to be engaged. And at the end of the day, I really think that's what it's all about. It's about that engagement. And to me, the more people you can get involved with government on any level, whether it's just being in tune with who your representatives are, who your school committee person is, who your ward councilor is, who your councilors at large are, and so that's all good, whether it's that level or whether it's showing up to a public meeting or advocating for a particular cause, whatever the case may be. Engaging those people is going to help us all, really. The more dialogue, the better, to me.
Yeah, and I think it's important too that once you're out there and you're available, that you continue to make yourself available and that you address concerns, questions as they happen. Now, I know as a city councilor, the old guard or the old technique would be you have a phone that you can call, whether it be you give your phone number or your cell phone number, and you guys are readily available. In the mayor's office, we have a phone number, but we also have our Twitter and Facebook accounts, which we diligently monitor. And as people can attest in their own experience, when we see a constituent request come through those channels, we address them no differently than if you called 781-397-7000.
Sure.
If I see a person asking a question, we're jumping right on it, because the time decay of a person's patience on those mediums is much quicker than a phone call that says,
absolutely.
get back to us in a couple of days. No, they want it in 2 minutes, right?
It's interesting, too,
Talk to
because
that.
I was with the mayor this morning at an event, fortunately, and I joked with him. I said, Mayor, a constituent they appreciated that you got back to him. They did take pause, though, that you responded at 1:15 a.m. So maybe you want to, have a policy about that. I mean, it just shows how hard the guy's working. But, so I know we sat down early on in the administration with Kathleen Manning Hall, with Paul, with some of the other people in the office on, how can we construct some of the way that we're doing these posts and, make sure that when we do it, we're meeting the public records law. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, all of these tweets are a public document.
Absolutely.
Just like our budget is a public document, just like paper documents are all public documents. So, I think having the awareness of that is good as well. That helps the city. And again, to me, it all comes back to the engagement and being social media. Well, then you got to be social,
Right.
And you got to
Right.
get them to take action. So whether it's the cash mob, whether it's promoting the farmers market, whether it's promoting a new business that's come in, or a meeting that's going to be happening. I remember we went back. One of the things that I got involved with you was around the MBTA hearings when we went on change.org and we had the petition. We had
Yes.
several hundred people. I think it was 600 people
Yeah.
sign the petition online.
Right.
And really, when the MBTA came out and we presented that, they were kind of overwhelmed by
Right.
the amount of input that we gave them, which is a good thing.
And we pulled it all together via social media. I mean, we passed out a few paper copies, but that's
Yeah.
really how we pulled it all together. And to your point, we continue to hone this. So we're not perfect. Sometimes we miss something. Sometimes we respond late. Sometimes, heaven forbid, we may even give you the wrong piece of information. But the point is, we follow up and we follow through. And I think that's really important, because I think people really appreciate that you're on there in your own voice. You're not a robot or
Yeah.
an autoresponder to
Right,
say,
right.
hey, I'll get back to you really quick,
Yeah.
okay, as opposed to, I will respond to you in 3.5 minutes.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
Well, there's a human on the other end.
Absolutely.
And we like to
And following
convey
human
that.
events, just like I was following the stuff that you were doing for the girls softball.
Thank you for bringing that
was
out.
that
Yeah,
was
that's
great.
Yeah.
I was at a family event in Revere. I couldn't go. I really wanted to be able to go, but at the same time, I knew, oh wait, you know what? I can keep tabs on the game because I know Ron's going to be blogging and tweeting.
I have to tell you, this iPad nearly bit the dust at the state championship.
Yeah, you had your
So
little generator
I had
going.
No, I had this all ready to go. I was typing up my tweets. I was going about two or three updates per half inning. And I'll tell you, I'm a huge fan of this girls softball team, so it
How
was
can
really
you
hard
not
for
be?
me to
What a
contain
season.
myself, But on the other end, all I could think about in this whole thing was, you know what? If I couldn't make it there that night, I want somebody in there being as passionate as
Absolutely.
possible.
Yeah,
so you know
absolutely.
what? I wasn't worried about sounding like official City Hall guy.
Yeah, no,
I
you
said
don't
the
have to.
bad
Yeah,
guys
right,
and the
right.
good guys and
Right.
all this stuff. So, it was fun. And you know what? I want that to come through, and I want people to realize that there is a human on the other end of this.
It's all about communication, and I think people want to know what they're getting out of their government, and this is just another way to engage them, get the message across that we're working on these issues. This is not business as usual up here. We got a new mayor, we have new councilors, we're really trying to do things in a new way to be as efficient as possible. We're trying to go through, whether it be the budget or any ordinances, and really just listen to the people. I mean, we've had very intense campaigns over the past couple of cycles, and the people have chimed in, whether it be with the bags. I probably started with
Yeah.
the bags. And
All
then
through social media, too, right?
A lot of it driven through social
Yeah.
media. So, again, back to the analogy earlier, I think this is the new phonograph, right? This is the new piece of technology,
Yeah.
whether it be starting with the telegraph to the telephone
Yeah.
to now this, and then in a year or two there'll be something else.
And to your point that you made earlier with regard to the legalities of it in public records law, this is something that I have keenly observing, and I've got my ear to the rail on this one, because I'll tell you what, I was at a conference, Mass Municipal Association's annual conference, where if it's being talked about and it's hot and people know about it, it's at that
sure.
conference,
Yeah,
right?
they do a good job.
Well, I'll tell you, I was at one particular presentation where they were talking about Facebook
Yeah,
in the
sure,
city.
yeah.
And you know what? They had a representative, an attorney from the state, who said, we still don't know.
We don't know.
About
There's
this,
not a lot of
right?
guidance. There hasn't been a lot of legal decisions.
Right.
There's certainly not a lot of laws that have been promulgated. We're operating under the laws that really have to do with paper documents. So there's a big issue. Actually, one of your colleagues, Kevin, I remember we worked on when I was in the state senate as an aide, and he was an aide on the other side. We worked on a law about dissemination of material, electronic material. And just to literally change an and to a may and a comma, it took like 2.5 years of going through the process, and there was countless hearings, and and that really just expanded the definition of what it was to send something electronically, and it just so this is really
It's cutting edge, right?
yeah, we're way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
We're way ahead of the curve, and the public policy hasn't caught up in a lot of ways. So
Yeah, and you can probably attest that sometimes being on the cutting edge it can be a dangerous place
Yeah,
to be. And
yeah.
I mean, the best way that my own personal strategy here is, we try to disseminate information that's valuable, that is accurate,
Yeah.
and it's not conjecture. It's not something that I just think is going on
Yeah.
at the city. I check my sources first. I call around the city. When we answer a question for a constituent, it's been vetted. And an example of that, you're probably familiar with the really serious incident, firearms, 500 Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? We put out a message, and then we got on Facebook, and we talked to the residents. Now, we didn't talk to them about how many people were involved. Were there police officers hurt? Were there civilians hurt? Were there anything? We didn't do that because, that's really important stuff. And that could be stuff that winds up in evidence.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, we've talked about this at length. The old axiom, I think, is so true. Pioneers perish and settlers prosper.
right.
So, there is a fine line where we're blazing the path, but at the same time, we have to take a step back and say, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing here? And I know you're trying to do that. So, I think we'll be all right with that. We just got to make sure that we get the guidance, and the good old-fashioned rule of thumb. If you don't think we shouldn't do it, then let's not do it.
If it sounds a little
If
weird,
it sounds like we
hold
shouldn't
off.
do it. So, you know, for the most part, 95% of what we're talking about here is information that is also going to be disseminated via the website
Right.
or via a paper document or a posting or something that's going to appear in the newspaper, something like that. So, you know, I think we're doing a good job and we're trying our best. It doesn't mean just because there's dangers out there doesn't mean
Don't go there.
Don't go there. So, you know, we're trying. I think we'll get there eventually. It's helping the city. I've heard mostly positive things.
That's
I mean,
great to hear.
very few comments to the contrary. So,
Well, listen,
Gotta keep it
Councilor
up.
David D'Arcangelo, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you for joining me, and really informative stuff.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate
Thank you.
that. So we're going to wrap this up a little bit. We're going to just kind of review what we've talked about. Tonight was really all about social media, but as you can see, social media as a word has a broad meaning, and you can see that by our guests and what we talked about this evening. You know, so one of the things that I think of all the things that I would want to come away with is if you are a person who is on Facebook or Twitter and you're really not kind of in the game, or you're wondering what's out there, what the city has to offer, you know, dive in, take a chance, you know, get on our accounts, tweet at us, send us a message just to prove that we actually respond back to you, because we will respond back to you. And the more people that you spread the word to, that means the more people out in the city that will get the message, and then ultimately it makes Malden a more attractive place to live. And I think that is the overarching goal that Mayor Christensen had in his administration, and I personally have in my mission as Director of Online Services and Communication Technology with the City of Malden. Once again, thank you to MATV and Fran Matuccio and the Malden Zone. And we'll see you again in a month from now. Well, Malden Zone will be here, but the Mayor's office will be here again on the third Wednesday. Once again, thank you very much.
Hey you, get out of the dock and into the zone.